you're perfect just the way you are. Now get better.
That's
because
awesome.
because so maybe we can talk about that a little bit, because I think that one of the things that I notice about artists, and definitely something I noticed about myself, which could have been age, but I have an idea about where that comes from, but is like at least a low sense of self-esteem or self-worth around your art,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to like comparing yourself to other artists that have more experience. And I guess just one thing that I'll say, and then I want to pass it on to you, is like when you see an artist that's amazing, you have to realize that that person sucked. Like there was a point that they started off where their drawings were not good. I mean, even looking back at when I first started doing caricatures 6 years ago, I mean, I still look at some of my drawings and I'm like, oh man, that's bad. But when I see my stuff from 6 years ago, like I delete that shit. Like I don't want any trace of that online. Sometimes I'll do a comparison though. I'll like draw the same people, and I'm just fascinated that I have customers that actually come back to me from that time. But that's one of the biggest rewards of caricature art is like sometimes you'll get repeat customers over the years, and you can get your style to see your style develop like that. But the point is that like if you come to the way I see it is that if you come to the field of art and you're like willing to be vulnerable and you're willing to make crappy drawings and you're willing to go through that fire, um, that's enough. Like you're good enough right there in the sense that like you're willing to put in the work, and
Yes.
eventually, as long as you keep practicing, as long as you stay humble and allow critiques and criticism and actually listen to what people say, you will get better. But it's going to take time. Art is not an easy thing. It's something that takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of consideration and knowledge to really make something look amazing. So anyway, I'll let you share on that.
No, I totally agree with that. It's definitely important to be consistent with your learning. Um, and it's one of those things where you look at something and it's tough to just look at a circle and think, okay, it's a circle and I'm just going to draw a circle and that's it. But in reality, you're drawing your mind, your idea of a circle, and you're not really drawing. It's you're making something that's not real into reality. You're literally creating that one thing, and so for the constant improvement, that's there's a lot of inspiration, and yeah, each artist did start off poorly before, but uh, even at that level, you are a step ahead of some other people, but you're also a step behind. So I would recommend to sort of learn where you are in relation to others. Now, some people say just forget it, don't even look at other people's art, just improve, just continually do good, and that's dangerous because you're not able to compare yourself to who you look up to. If you're not able to do that, there's no way that you can seek betterment other than to improve. I mean, how would you know? Ultimately, like this applies to everything, including drawing, including painting, everything. How do you know whether you're good? How Oh well, because people tell you you're good, you think you're good. No, great. You have the gratification. You hear other people tell you you're good. To me, when people tell me I'm good, I'm like, I'm so bad. Like I compare myself to Joe Bloom. I compare myself to
Oh, you're
Sebastian
you're way better
Kruger.
than Joe Bloom.
get out of here. No, I compare myself to them so that I know that there's a lot more to go for me to learn to become better. And interestingly enough, what I look at now from Joe Bloom's work is stuff from like 10 years ago, which is when he was not as good, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, he's gotten better now. And that in itself is overwhelming. Like, that's when you know there's people with talent that can really get things early on, and that people can grasp concepts better than others. So if that doesn't answer your question, at least it'll let people know that, you know, you can improve and you can do it as long as you have that consistency, constantly improve on something. And even if you have that talent, when you have a talent of drawing or of a certain medium or what have you, you can grasp the concepts better than other people. That's literally what, you know, and you have the passion, hopefully, that's the other talent, whether you have the passion or you don't. Even if you're good at it, you know, you may not have the passion to do it. But if you have the passion and you are able to grasp concepts better than others, you are literally in need of taking less time to practice so that you can understand something. Cool. You don't practice enough and you're amazing, that's insanely cool, right? But if you did practice, right, what could happen then? And if you haven't, you wouldn't know. If you haven't practiced, you wouldn't know. Once you step into that, it's a matter of continually getting to know what you don't know. What is it that you don't know? How do you know that you don't know that one thing? And for me, it has to do with practicing in an organized and conscious way. Where, okay, let's say I'm going to draw a line straight down the page. If my line is jaggedy and it's not how I wanted, how I envisioned it, then that means I now know that I don't know how to do that. So how would you have known unless you actually try?
Yeah, and there's a quote that it's not practice that makes perfect, it's perfect practice that makes perfect. So that's important too. But also this idea about it's 99% or it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And for me, I used to be impressed with people's artwork that was at a high level. I would look at it and I would say, oh my God, they're so talented. I wish I had that kind of talent, you know. And that's, as a younger artist, like that's how I thought. And then now, like looking back, I'm like, I'm impressed with the image at first, but then right away, like I'm like, man, that person, he must have practiced for 10,000 hours or 20,000 hours to be able to do that. And so for me, I'm more impressed now with the amount of work that goes into it, because I can see that, like, even if you don't have quote unquote talent, which most people aren't just naturally inclined. Like you mentioned Joe Bloom. Like I remember an interview from him where he talked about when he first got started, he would draw caricatures all day for 10 hours, I guess at Six Flags, I think, if I remember correctly. And then he would come home. He said he would get home, he'd have a glass of water, and then he would just draw for like 4 more hours. I mean, that's 14 hours a day. If you're drawing for 14 hours a day, you're going to get better a lot faster than the guy who's doing it for an hour a day or whatever. So for me, like it's, I've seen people that weren't very good get better very quick because they're dedicated and they put the work in. And I think that works. Yeah, I mean, you can have that. Like when you see art that blows you away, like you can do that. Maybe not right away, but you're going to have to work your ass off, but you can get that.